I think it's the greatest force multiplier that we've ever seen in the history of humanity. A person using the AI tools will be able to produce 10 times as much as they were previously. Now that scares people because people immediately think, well, I don't need to hire 10 more people. Again, I think it's the opposite. What if you could get 10 more people to produce 100 times of what you were able to do before?
Hi, welcome back to Core Conversations. Today we have a special guest, Noel Wilson. He is the CEO and founder of Intelligenic, and ultimately they are helping revolutionize the software development space. My name is John Buchanan. I'm your host, and Noel, it's really a pleasure to have you on today.
John, thanks for having me. Nice to meet you. I'm excited to talk about Intelligenic and what's happening in artificial intelligence.
For the people who don't know, can you give us a kind of a high level on your company and what you guys do and who you serve?
Sure thing. At Intelligenic, we're building an AI-driven platform that automates the software development lifecycle comprehensively. The way that we do this is we provide enterprise context to our agents so that they can produce production-ready code with minimal iterations. We're effectively enabling vibe coding for the enterprise.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And for those of us who don't speak coding, can you talk on vibe coding just a little bit?
Yeah, it's definitely been popularized in the last year. Um, There's nothing really secret about it. Vibe coding is really just about using artificial intelligence to enable people that write code to do so more efficiently, make them more productive, automate many of the tasks that they would have to perform, and automate the production of the code itself. Now it's nuanced. There's a lot that goes into it because that sounds amazing. And in fact, the media really makes it out to be this panacea to writing software going forward, and that developers will no longer be needed. Well, I find it to be the exact opposite of that. Quite frankly, I think it's the greatest force multiplier that we've ever seen in the history of humanity, which will more than enable the people that are already writing software to write more software than they ever have been before. And quite frankly, it can be applied to many other workflows to enable those people that have very manual tasks to be able to be that much more productive and produce whatever it is that they're trying to produce much faster and much more efficient way, and automate those activities. So from a vibe coding perspective, the nuances of like what goes into it, to be able to get anything of relevance and quality out of the agents that you use to produce code, you have to have a certain level of expertise to make that happen. The models don't know anything about what you're trying to do. So don't expect it to go in there and simply tell it in one line that I want you to write me a banking application. It'll try its best, but it won't do it. I'm just telling you right now, it won't do it. There's a lot of applications out there that claim that you can go do that stuff, but the reality is those applications are great at producing simple applications or prototypes, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. I'm saying we don't need that. We absolutely do, because it helps people to start to get a clearer picture of the software that they could build. But it's not working software. Kid yourself, it's not. So to get it to the point where it's working software, you need to have the expertise to understand what sorts of instructions provided. Those are the prompts, and that's not trivial by any means at all. That's almost a programming, computer science skill in and of itself. And you have to provide it with context about the organization that you're part of and the application you're trying to build. If you get both of those things right, you still don't often get quality code out of it. The reason for that is the people that are trying to do this may not have the expertise that they need. You need to absolutely know what's good and what's not. So it is not a trivial exercise to use artificial intelligence to write software, which is vibe code. Our platform fixes that because we have purposely built it to support the enterprise organization, so that our framework actually addresses the workflow that enterprise organizations go through on a daily basis to produce software. And we've purposely built it to support the software development professional to fit how they write code, to make them more efficient so they can complete their work in that much quicker time frames with much less effort and help them reduce costs overall.
Wow. Thank you for that. That was really good. That was really good. And it has come a long way with AI and the ability to have it help you code. Um, but I've tried a few different things where, even just building a website on, let's say, Lovable, where you can prompt in it's pretty good. Like, it's come a long way. But
Yeah, for sure.
um, everything that needs to be done on the back end to make sure that all of the systems connect and everything works, it has to require a certain level of expertise. And so you guys are mending the AI and the human intelligence together.
That's the key. Again, there's this great fear that somehow AI is going to be this job destroyer and it's this existential threat to humanity. The reality is that we will always need a human in the loop to work with the AI. It's just another tool that we use to help us perform our activities and complete our work. And we'll need to be present to be able to confirm that what's been built actually meets our needs and
Right.
actually is, delivering the quality that we would expect from it. You brought up Lovable. I think it's a great example. It's a fantastic platform. Lovable is great at building simple applications and prototypes. In fact, their leadership would be the first to admit that's what they've designed it to do, is to do
Right.
that. And they think that you should do more of that. And I don't disagree. I think that's a great approach to software development. It's much easier than what we used to do years ago, where we would do paper prototypes and we would write these things down on paper. So it's just like, what? To actually show something that's kind of like a pseudo application to get buy-in, to get the funding to go build the real application, that's going to be significantly more complex than those simple apps or those prototypes that most of those platforms produce.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, you've been in the information technology world for a long time, correct? And so you've seen how much this has progressed and grown. And um, one of my questions I always like to ask is, where we are now, where do you see this going? One, for your company, and two, just for kind of the overarching AI landscape.
Yeah, we're really just at the very beginning of using AI to make us that much more efficient. Most organizations struggle to utilize it um, the way that many companies are describing that you can use it. Um, it's just like any other technology that exists. If you try to implement it without any sort of a plan, without any sort of support throughout your organization, without a change management program in place to make sure that everybody is using it in a standard and consistent way, and that your expectations are clearly set across the organization,
Hmm.
your initiative to use AI is going to fail, just like any other initiative that you would try to go forward with in technology. That's the reason that most technology initiatives fail. There's just a misalignment between the stakeholders, right?
Yeah.
What the technologists are trying to do doesn't really align with the business leaders are trying to get accomplished as well. So we're really at the cusp of this, and I think we're going to see an evolution of the tools to more closely align to the workflows that humans are familiar with.
Hmm.
Certainly this is what we're doing at Intelligenic. As I mentioned earlier, we've purposely built our platform to meet the needs of the enterprise organization and the software development professional so that we can become another tool that they can use to help them through their development process from 0 to 1. And then you're going to start to see that with many of these other tools that will be developed that are using artificial intelligence, that in some cases they might modify the workflow, but for the most part, it'll be um, enhancing the existing workflows, because that's what it's all about. These are just tools to make the humans that much more efficient and that much more productive. I mentioned earlier, I think it's the greatest force multiplier that we've ever seen in the history of humanity. I
Hmm.
don't think there's any reason that we can't expect, a 10x return, meaning a person using the AI tools will be able to produce 10 times as much as they were previously. Now that scares people because people immediately think, well, I don't need to hire 10 more people. I think it's the opposite. What if you could get 10 more people to produce 100 times of what you were able to do before? Would that be a good thing? Would that make you
Yeah.
more, able to compete, whatever industry that you're in? I think it's pretty powerful. I think it's very short sighted and quite frankly, negative to think that, well, I'm going to do less, with less people. No, you're going to do more with more people. That's really what is going to happen. That's what I believe the future has in store for us.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think it does allow you to leverage time. And I'm curious, when you talk about like your enterprise, your enterprise clients, what does that like ideal enterprise client look like for you?
Well, right now, our ideal customer profile is a mid-sized to enterprise scale
Okay.
organization in technology, the technology industry, building custom software. But it's a little bit more nuanced than that, because that's like the organization, right? There are people within that organization that will be using our tools. So we further segmented to the user personas that would benefit from it. And I would categorize those user personas in several ways. First and foremost, it's a term that I've coined. It's the Uber vibe coder. This is the very experienced software engineer that has many years developing software prior to using artificial intelligence tools. They probably use them today. They're probably vibe coding today. But they're having to do a lot of the vibe coding, setting up their environment in a manual fashion, and they're not getting as much productivity out of it. They might be, I'm sure they're more productive than they've ever been before, but this will be something that will just make it that much more efficient for them to create that context, to help them produce those quality prompts to get even more relevant and quality output out of the models that they're using to produce their code. So that's one. The second one would be the less experienced software engineer that doesn't have all the years of software engineering, that may not know what is good or what is bad that they're producing, let alone what the models produce, will absolutely benefit from this, because it's going to be an immediate force multiplier for them. And then everybody else that's involved in the software development lifecycle. And that includes like product managers. These are the people that would shepherd the whole process from 0 to 1. They're the ones that define the what, the why, the how of the software that's being built. And they manage it along with the engineering teams to get it to a state that meets all of that criteria that they've defined as well. And then there's many others that are involved in the software development lifecycle that can benefit from this: user experience, user interface designers, DevOps engineers, quality assurance engineers, the actual leadership themselves. So there's many personas, but there's really the key three ones that we're focusing on to start are those Uber software engineers, this software engineer, and then the product managers. And then from there, we'll expand and build upon our capabilities to be able to support many of the others that are involved in the software development lifecycle. And then as far as the ICP goes, that's just the start. I firmly believe long term that our platform can be used by any industry and any organization in those industries of any size. But when you're a small organization, you're just getting started, you need to narrow your focus, and that's what we've done. And as we grow and scale, we'll be able to expand and take advantage of an even greater market opportunity.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, you do have to have a little bit of a narrow focus, right, in the beginning. Um, but I appreciate you giving us that. That's really helpful. Um, as far as like intellectual property goes, how are you using your own built tools alongside of, let's say, publicly available LLMs to meet the demands of your customers' needs?
Yeah, sure. To accelerate our product development efforts, we've partnered with, the usual suspects, if you will. You know, uh, we're not building our own cloud infrastructure, and for now, we're not building our own models. Long term, we will. That's a very expensive proposition, but because these tools are available, it's allowing us to accelerate our product development faster than anybody has ever been able to do before. And this is commonplace, certainly in Silicon Valley. Everybody's taking advantage of this so they can get their products to market as swiftly as they can. And by virtue of doing this helped us get a viable product in market within 6 months. Like, it's been in market since July of last year. We've had a smaller subset of the total number of potential customers that are interested in our product trying it out, giving us feedback so that we can fine tune it for an eventual larger scale commercial release that'll happen early this year. So we work with a lot of the big players, just like you would expect, the usual suspects, I would say. But our plan long term would be to take on more ownership of some of the underlying infrastructure, including the model development and the training of those models, because it just gives you more control
Yeah.
over what you're offering to your customers, the availability of the solutions, and to allow you to do whatever you really want with those models. But I am a huge proponent of partner with the firms that exist today. It will absolutely help accelerate your product development efforts. It can be daunting starting a company, especially a technology company. When you think about all the capital that used to be required to go into, I'm not saying there's not, but there still isn't capital. There is, but it's much less. Like when I started my career, like building the underlying infrastructure for a SaaS application, oh my word. Like there weren't cloud platforms available at that time. Amazon was used to sell books. They hadn't really
Yeah.
got into selling all this. They were just starting to do other e-commerce stuff. They didn't really, at the point, I'm sure they were thinking, wow, we got a lot of excess capacity. We could probably offer this to people. But I had to go,
Right.
either in a local facility or a co-location facility to build out our server infrastructure or networking infrastructure that the application would sit upon. You don't have to do that anymore. There's
Right.
these cloud solutions that are available. There's providers that give you the large language models from Anthropic, from OpenAI, from Google, you name it. There's a whole list that you can work with that will help accelerate the development of your artificial intelligence solutions. I know you're working with a firm that does. I'm sure you guys are doing similar things like that. I'd be surprised if you were building your own models and building your own cloud infrastructure. But it's so key. You take advantage of the technology partner ecosystem, and it will help you be much more successful as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I agree. And why would we want to try to replicate what they've built? It's so much infrastructure and so much investment has gone into those, call it four big players. Um, and yeah, we're building on theirs. So it's a learning model, but it's built on I believe it's built on OpenAI's platform. So
There you go. Yeah.
um what as far as those go, which one do you prefer to work with in your line of business the most?
Yeah, sure. So we've partnered with Microsoft to take advantage of their cloud Azure
Hmm.
platform. It's great. Um, there, a lot of the other providers are, provide similar solutions. We decided to work with Microsoft because they've got a great program for entrepreneurs and founders. So you get Azure credits, with meaning you don't have to pay for your infrastructure for a very long period of time while you're building your product. This is what I'm talking about. Like years ago, it was impossible. Like, yeah, I can't
Yeah.
tell you how many millions were spent on building this stuff, but to be able to get that. Now, it's not to say that the others don't offer it. Like Google offers similar programs, so does Amazon, right? So, as an entrepreneur, when you're getting started, look at them all, determine which ones will best suit your needs. And then as a result, because of Microsoft's significant investment in OpenAI, we started with the OpenAI large language models to drive our platform. And those are available within Microsoft. So all those Azure credits that I mentioned, we get to apply them to the use of those models to get us started. Huge, huge benefit to be able to build an incredible product and take it to market swiftly until you get to the point where it starts paying for itself through the cash flow generation of the revenue that you're able to earn from people using your platform. But we've built our platform with the concept that it's very open and scalable, and that we can use any other model and really any other technology we can insert. So it's very modular, it's very scalable in that nature. And long term, we may be using other LLMs. I am a huge proponent of using the right model for the task that you're trying to complete, because they're not all the same. There are subtle differences. Some are better than others at certain tasks, and you owe it to yourself to get the highest performance from the right model. And our platform is engineered in such a way that we can take advantage of that.
Yeah, they don't all do everything the same at the same quality, right? Certain models are better at certain things, and so I think that's kind of one of the most challenging things to navigate when you're trying to utilize AI in today's business world, to say, okay, what's this one best at, and how can I best utilize each tool to maximize efficiency, right?
Right.
And
That's exactly
and
right.
so like in your opinion, as we evolve over the next, let's say, year or two, three, AI has been able to iterate rapidly. So we're getting advancements much faster than we've ever gotten in technology. And so, how do you see this evolving, like with your business model, but also like the AI landscape, let's say over the next couple of years? How fast do you think this is going to continue to iterate? And how much more money do you think they're going to have to pump into infrastructure to keep up
Yeah,
with that?
it's a great question. First, I think it's evolving faster than I've ever seen in my career. I thought that the way things were evolving, this is going to date myself, when I was starting my career in the 90s, with the, the internet becoming mainstream was just amazing what we could do and all these solutions that we could bring online and everything. But in many ways, it was still your traditional software development projects and infrastructure projects, like I had mentioned before. So you had to build all that stuff yourself, But now there's all these partners available to you that offer many of these solutions that will allow you to accelerate your ability to take it to market. It's changing daily. It really is. So that really anybody that's involved in the industry that's utilizing artificial intelligence solutions or building their own, you need to stay abreast of what's happening. You need to understand how these things are changing so you can take advantage of those things, and then also course correct yourself, right? Um, what are some of the things that I think are the delimiting factors? I think compute processing capability is a delimiter. Number one, we still don't have enough of the chips that we need to be able to support it. And I mean, the chips are getting incredibly more powerful all the
Right.
time. So that's going to continue to evolve and get better, and new technologies will get introduced that will go well beyond what even GPUs will be able to support. I think the number one deliverer though right now is power. I
Power.
think that we I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, but artificial intelligence is going to consume a significant amount of power. And there's a lot of other resources. A lot of people talk about this. So that's kind of the hidden threat to humanity that everybody worries about, is like, well, wait a minute, now these data centers are taking all this power and all this water and everything. So these are real problems, though. We have to solve them
Right.
for sure. I don't think that governments or the traditional utilities are the ones that are going to solve them.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the tech companies that are going to solve them. And I think that's been pretty true throughout history.
Yeah, I
That
agree.
when companies that are making their products commercially available and they have a need to fix something, they innovate.
They fix
They
it.
invest and they innovate and they fix it.
Right.
So I think the fear is a little unfounded. You do have to trust that these organizations are going to do it in a fashion that doesn't just benefit the shareholders, right, of the organization. But
Yeah.
it will get fixed. There is a demand for it, obviously, and I believe it'll be the companies that are the ones that are going to fix the problem. They're the ones that are going to come up with new technologies. They're the ones that are going to create, viable sources of like fusion energy,
Yeah.
things like that, things that we just haven't really thought about. Other solutions that may not require as much water, right? Because obviously water is very important for humans. We need that.
Yeah.
Um,
Sure.
so that's where I think things were going to go. That's where I think that things are going to evolve. It's going to happen fast. I think
Yeah.
really in the next 10 or 20 years, our energy challenges are going to get solved because we have so much demand for it now. We have to. And
Right.
when a business is placed in that position and they see an opportunity for them to grow their business, they solve it. They innovate and they solve it.
Yeah. I think it's going to have to happen a little sooner than that. Um, just to be honest. So
Could be.
there's,
Timelines are
yeah,
getting shorter for sure.
the iterations are getting tighter and tighter. There are quite a few, companies that I've been following that do nuclear work, and I know there's been some reactors being built by a few different tech companies, or at least they're working on it. And then one that's talking about putting their data centers up in space for like instead
Yeah.
of using water, right? Then the temperatures are drastically lower. So that's an interesting concept, is to like, we have so much debris in like old satellites, and satellites, everything is just kind of surrounding the earth. And then it's like, okay, can they get up there and put all of these data centers in orbit so that they can still communicate and do their job, but at the same time not require this? And then solar could be a big part of that, the power grid up there, but I don't know if it's good enough to power all of it, right? Not yet.
I think there's a lot of viable solutions to consider. I've definitely met with people that they're building their companies to create space data centers. It's amazing. What we once thought was science fiction is now reality. You know, um, and we're not that far off from that. It's like I said, solving these problems that are very real today. Nuclear from a power source, that's the the easiest win. If we could just get past our fear, it's a real fear, of the safety, but quite frankly, it's pretty safe. I mean, there are a lot of outlying situations that have occurred throughout history. Um, and the ramifications are pretty dramatic, right? And so I get
Yeah.
the fear from that, but they're getting better. We're getting safer at being able to manage it. So like these problems are getting solved right now. And it's not that far off, right? It'll be a very different world, right, in the next 10 to 20 years.
Yeah, it's, as far, I don't know where we are now, but in the past I've been following some companies that were, on the nuclear side. It's like getting it to be stable for a certain amount of time, and they're
Yeah,
increasing their amount of stability, but it's still not viable yet, right?
yeah.
But
What's the
I think it will be.
affordability part of it too, right? That's
Right.
the challenge. Building a massive reactor is not trivial. You're talking multi-billions. So some of these that I've seen that have got a lot of traction are these smaller. I like making it look like this. It's actually like a tractor trailer. These
Yeah,
portable reactors. Like, to me, that seems like the win, right? So if you can get
right.
that at scale and build many of those, you can power, a football stadium. In some cases, you can power a small city. Things like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's where we're heading. I do. And it is a huge problem. And there is a fear behind it because of mistakes made in the past, and, you know, examples that we don't need to talk about. But um I know there's a place right down the street from you in Livermore, that lab that they're working
Yeah,
on this, that we called it the Stranger Things lab. But
yeah.
I know they're working on some of these projects there. And so I'm curious to see how this all shakes out and how long it takes for them to figure this out from a commercial
Me
standpoint.
too. Me too. It's such an exciting time to be involved in technology. You know, um, because we're really creating the solutions that are going to dramatically change the way that we live our lives going forward, and in a good way. We need to stop being afraid of something new and being fearful of that. I know it's human nature. It's something new and it's scary. It's like the darkness in the forest. What's out there? I don't know. Could be something really evil. You know, it could be just as equal that there aren't goblins and gremlins, but it's like this amazing life. I think at the edge of that darkness that is going to make everything better for humanity. I think we just need to be thinking about things a little differently than the media loves to position these new things that are coming into life. It's just like, it's okay, everybody. Let's just
You
work
know?
together to create this better life by innovating and creating great new
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah. Maybe don't watch the news so much, right? Like, don't listen to them so much. It's,
Yeah, exactly.
it's your prescription for the day. But
There you go.
I love this topic. I really do. And so, as you know, as you guys started in, let's say 2023, I think is what I read. Is that right? With Intelligenic, and
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
from the founding of this until now, like, what's been one of the most exciting pieces of it, and like what also has been like one of the most challenging parts to scale and grow uh, your own company?
Um, Same event. So the most exciting thing is also was the most challenging thing. I was just getting started. You know,
Actually,
it's professionally, it's one of the scariest things you can ever do, and I've had a lot of experience and, a lot of years in the industry. So I've seen a lot and I've thought a lot about starting my own company. There was always that fear and doubt and uncertainty that held me back. And as I've gone through my journey, I realized that that's pretty common with most founders and entrepreneurs, you know. Um, so that's good because it helps me realize that I'm not alone, right? And that I was the only one that had this fear, right? So that was good to know. But it's scary. Just imagine like you're standing on the edge of this cliff looking out into this abyss. You cannot see the bottom and you need to get to the other side. You have to trust yourself that you have the knowledge, the capability to be able to cross it. So you take a step out into that abyss, hoping you're going to find a foothold. And then what I found in my own experience is that I was like, oh, wow, there's a foothold there. Well, what happens if I take another step? Oh, there's another foothold. And so then you start to trust that I can do it. And by the way, that never changes. It's still the scariest thing that I do professionally. It's just this series of problem solving events. Like you're always encountering something new that you can say, oh, okay, that's new. I got to figure that out. Sometimes you've seen it before. You're like, all right, I know how to figure that one out. I can move quickly and do that. But you also learn to move quickly and solve those problems and get through it and keep going and keep going and keep going. So I would say taking that first step to start the business was not only the most exciting thing that I've done in this journey, but also the most challenging thing that I've done in this journey.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it is. It is quite the challenge to step out and take that leap of faith because you have to be able to bet on yourself and the vision that you see for your future and also the opportunity set with technology, and you've been in the world for a long time. Can I ask what was it that sparked the desire to create this company?
I don't think it was one thing. As I mentioned, I've been doing this for quite some time, been involved in software engineering in some form, whether that's hands on keyboard or leading teams or running the business that's responsible for producing these types of solutions. So I've seen a lot and I considered starting a business many times. But in 2023, I realized that I wanted to do something new. I was ready finally to start my own business. I wasn't totally sure what I wanted to do. So my background's in consulting. So my initial inclination was to build a consulting business that would utilize artificial intelligence tools to accelerate the delivery of our services for our customers. But I pretty quickly realized that there's a bigger macro problem in that there aren't enough qualified people worldwide to actually meet the demand for all the software that we're being asked to build. Quality's still poor. It's really manual, inefficient, costs a lot. And that by virtue of providing consulting services, while I'd still have an amazing business, my customers and my clients would absolutely take advantage of it. I wouldn't really be solving the macro problem that we don't have enough people. It's manual, it's low quality, costs a lot, takes a long time and stuff. And so I realized the only way I was going to be able to do that is by just focusing on a platform. If I tried to do both, one or the other would become too much of a distraction. It's a typical challenge that a lot of founders face because it's real easy. You're like, if I just do the services piece, I can make a lot of money right away. That pays all the bills and stuff like that. So that was even scarier to go away from that to I'm going to go focus on this and build this product. But it was the best decision I could have made to do that and focus on the product instead. Because now I really do believe we've got an amazing platform that can be used by not only organizations that are consulting firms, and that has not escaped me that will be a target, industry for us to be able to offer our product to, but then other organizations that are just building software that aren't offering professional services and that sort of thing.
Got it. Yeah. I love that. And going from consulting and taking the leap into what you did it's a big leap, but there's a lot of skills that transfer, right? So the relationship management and the ability to get customers on board and to manage a lot of different moving pieces in one deal. And I think it's really, and 2023 was, because I remember when ChatGPT came out in 2022, like November of 22, my buddy called me and he said, "Hey, have you heard of this ChatGPT?" And that was the time to buy all the chip stocks. And so
Yeah.
yeah. So, but as we've evolved and this thing has continued to grow, it's been really, really interesting to learn about it. And it's really fun to hear from somebody like yourself who's been in this space for some time and then also like took the leap at a beautiful time, right? Like you took the leap at the right time to start a company that could be wildly beneficial for people that need help in their organizations with their engineers and their lead coders that are going to be like, they're going to have to do all this work at some point, right? But you're allowing
Yeah.
them to
Yeah.
do it more efficiently and faster and better.
Yeah, it's interesting. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
When I think about it, because like 2022, that's when ChatGPT became globally available. And then people just started to experiment and trying stuff, right? And I think the
Right.
initial focus was on a lot of consumer oriented solutions, that sort of thing. So the timing for me worked out pretty well because we've been on this journey to build something that's more oriented towards the enterprise. Like I said, it's purpose built for the enterprise and for the software development professional. And the research that I'm doing, well, number one, there aren't many solutions that have that capability. And I really believe this is going to be that year where, my solution certainly will be ready, but there will be others. That's okay. Bring it on. I don't mind the competition. That excites me too.
Sure.
And so being able to finally make that available for the organizations that really need it is a pretty exciting time and opportunity to be able to take advantage of.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time here. And if somebody was interested in getting in touch with you to learn more about your company and how you could potentially work together, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, they can find us at intelligenic.ai. So think intelligence and photogenic combined into one word. Okay. We've got lots of great information about the company, about our platform, about artificial intelligence in general. I'm a firm believer in content marketing, so we've written lots of articles on the topic. There are a lot of other podcasts that I've been part of that are at that site too. And then by all means, we would love to have you try our product. You can sign up right there at the site and give it a shot and give us the feedback. Like, what do you think? Do you like it? Is it meeting your needs? Like, I am absolutely all about taking that customer real world feedback and incorporating that into our platform and making it that much better.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And if you had any advice to give to people that are entering into entrepreneurship or into your type of a field, what would that be?
Just go do it. The only thing that's holding you back is you. That's it. When I realized that, and I was like, oh my word, what have I been waiting for? You put up all these barriers and stuff like, oh, it'll never work. And there's plenty of people will tell you it won't work too. Don't listen to them. Just go do it. Just go do it. Believe in yourself and continue to believe in yourself. If you do that, you have that mindset, you will figure it out and you will get it done.
I love it. Well, Noel, thank you so much for your time, man. This has been a pleasure. And I'm looking forward to connecting again soon. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, John. Really appreciate the time. Great conversation, and let's definitely stay in touch. Thanks.
All right.